Hey, dear ones, God bless you. Thanks a lot for tuning in to Tech Tuesday. My reflection today I've entitled God and the Perfect Search Engine. This reflection comes from some comments made by one of the most powerful and influential tech titans, Sergey Brin. Sergey Brin, together with Larry Page, founded Google. He was raised in a secular Jewish home. He has no traditional religious faith at all, except we could call it his faith is in the coming singularity. He's been a speaker at the Singularity University in New York of Ray Kurzweil and shares this great devotion and idolatry of technology and of the computer. It's some comments that he made about God and search engines that I want to reflect upon. Let me read you the quote. He says, "The perfect search engine would be like the mind of God." It's fascinating to have these theological comments coming from people who are functional atheists. The perfect search engine would be like the mind of God if you had all the world's information directly attached to your brain, or an artificial brain that was smarter than your brain. You'd be better off. It's credible to imagine a leap as great as that from hunting through library stacks to a Google session, when we leap from today's search engines to having the entirety of the world's information of just one of our thoughts. There's your quote. So much to reflect upon. So much utter, complete foolishness in that short quote. What a shallow view of being a human being. What a shallow view of God and his mind, and what a shallow view of what would make our circumstances better. Lots of presuppositions, though, in that quote. Like there has been a great leap in wisdom and knowledge from using a normal library with books to Google sessions. I think not. I think it's been a catastrophic increase of stupidity. Lots more information, lots more stupidity. Smartphone, dumb people. And that can be measured in many, many ways. Not the least of which is Sergey's example himself about the mind of God and information. So let's start first by just a basic affirmation of God's mind. If there's one thing that the Lord God has attempted to tell us through the holy prophets, it's that his mind is not just a bigger version than ours. His mind is not like ours. Let me read to you, dear ones, from the prophet Isaiah. He has something very important to say about this. This is from the 55th chapter of the prophet Isaiah. Listen to this. "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near. Let the wicked forsake his way, and the unrighteous man his thoughts. And let him return to the Lord, and he will have compassion on him, and to our God, and he will abundantly pardon. For my thoughts are not as your thoughts, nor are my ways your ways, declares the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." The difference between God's thoughts and ours is not just a matter of number. It's not just that God has more thoughts. It's a massive it's a massive difference of quality. It's the difference between the thoughts of the one who is uncreated, who has uncreated thoughts, so to speak, and creatures. It's the difference between the Holy One and sinners like ourselves. So the idea that somehow if you just speed up your mind and you find a quicker way to have implants in your brain so that you can have access to Google's information store, you're going to become like God, like the mind of God. This is just pure blasphemy and a continuous attempt of those who deny God to become God without God. So this is my first thought. My second thought is that the problem with the human thoughts, which these tech titans are trying to address, and which they break down in such a shallow way simply to being a matter of limited information, as though somehow why we suffer is because we don't have access to more information. That is such a deficient evaluation of human misery with regards to thinking. I can hardly respond to it. Let me just say this. The problem with our thoughts is not that we don't have enough of them. The problem with our thoughts is that our thoughts are evil. This is the problem with our thoughts. Not that they're shallow, not that there aren't enough of them, not that we can't access a greater bandwidth. The problem is that our thoughts are evil. This is how Jesus describes it in the Sermon on the Mount. He says, out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, and these defile the man. Of course, Jesus is using the heart not just as a physical organ, right? This is also one of the problems with these tech titans, is that they only think that the physical exists. So they look at the human being and they think that's all you are. All your brain is a calculator. All your heart is a blood pumper. And as Sergey said, if you can get a new brain that thinks faster, you'll be better off. And of course, that on that principle, that can apply to every single thing in your physical apparatus. If you can get a new heart, that you'll be better off. If you can get a new skeletal structure, you'll be better off. If you can get a better face, you'll be better off. If you can get better ears, you'll be better off. Who knows if these men rule the day, what a human being will even look like, and what essentially in the human biology that God has made will even exist in the future, except their computer consciousness. So this is the problem, and let's apply it to a particular. The problem is not access to more information. The problem is that we're twisted. We have a much deeper problem than simply limited information. Our deeper problem is that from the core, we're corrupted. From the core, we're sinners. This is what we need. We need a true deliverance from our enslavement. And how does that show itself? So let's apply this principle that I'm articulating to the problem of unwanted pregnancies. This is a problem that everyone in the United States accepts that it exists. There are many people becoming pregnant who do not want to be pregnant. We could comment, of course, upon all the precedents that lead up to that. But let's just look at that as a problem. Does that problem really exist because of a lack of information? Is it that the people who are having sex and becoming pregnant when they don't want to really don't know the mechanisms of sex and the consequences of having sex? Is that why? Is it because they don't understand contraception? And they don't know that you can access contraception in order to try to prevent a pregnancy? Is that what it's about? Is it that they don't know that abortion is available and coming and can be used by people who have no moral consciousness about preserving life? I don't think so. I think this is a clear case to show that as the information has increased, as we have degraded our culture by raising sexual education, calling it sexual education, and pumping young people full of sexual content and making them experts on these subjects. I have a friend, God rest his soul, a priest friend who's departed this life, but he was a professor for many, many years in the university. And he told me once that the freshmen that were coming into his classes were functional illiterates, but they were functional PhDs in VD. They could tell him every type of venereal disease, how it manifests itself, how do you treat it, etc. Its Latin name. They knew everything about sex. They knew everything about contraception. He says they had been properly educated by the California public school system. So the very important things they absolutely knew. But they still had this terrible problem of unwanted pregnancies. So how is more information going to solve that problem? Well, it's not. That's what history has shown. It has done nothing but increase the problem by taking a sacred thing and treating it like a common thing. It's lost its mystique. It's lost its reverence. People have underestimated the extreme consequence of sexuality. Removing God from it, in fact, has hurt people terribly. This concept of God, the perfect search engine, is blasphemy. It is grotesque, and it's just one insight into the worldview of the tech titans who are the leaders of our secular culture, and it shows you just how foul the vision is. Don't follow it. Don't accept it. Don't revere it. Don't be excited about it. Instead, be excited about the Lord God and a Christian view of the world. God be with you.
And now, in what the researchers are calling the first study of its kind, Sinclair and his team were able to age the mice and then make them younger again. In this video shared by Harvard, these mice are the same age, yet one is visibly older. How did they do it? By literally breaking up the DNA, forcing the body to repair itself, which he says accelerates aging.
The mice actually do not just look old, but they literally are old. By about 50%. Great hair, they get little skin. They're old as old.
The results were shared at a conference earlier this year and are under review for publication. Covered how cells can be reprogrammed to be stem cells, which then can develop into cells of any type in the body. Using this method, Sinclair showed me how his team is trying to study memory loss by turning skin cells into tiny brains.
Here they are, these little beauties. So these are mini human brains. By about 50%. Great hair, they get little skin. They're old as old.
The results were shared at a conference earlier this year and are under review for publication. Covered how cells can be reprogrammed to be stem cells, which then can develop into cells of any type